And good evening. We begin tonight with harrowing new details from one of the deadliest flash flood disasters this country has ever seen. Texas officials releasing hundreds of 911 calls from that catastrophic night in July. This was the scene in Kirk County you may remember. Devastating flood water sweeping through small towns and neighborhoods. Air rescues, the water rising to 20 feet in just 90 minutes in some areas. More than 130 people killed, including dozens of children at Camp Mystic, an all-girls sleepaway camp. Residents and officials completely blindsided by the force of the storm, striking in the middle of the night. More than 500 911 calls were made to the Kerrville Police Department that night, overwhelming the just two operators working. We're also hearing some of the distressing calls for the first time. A warning, the calls are difficult to hear. They're upsetting, but shed new light on what happened that night and what may have gone wrong in the emergency response.
We are missing a whole cabin full of girls.
You said you're missing an entire cabin full of girls?
Yes.
5 months later, the heartbroken community still reeling from the unimaginable loss. Our Ryan Chandler is back in Kerrville, Texas tonight. He leads us off.
We're going to die.
We're going to do everything we can to avoid that, okay?
I have an infant. She can't hold her breath.
Their pleas were desperate as the river rose before dawn.
The water is at the windows. It's going to come in all at once. The windows are rattling.
Yes, ma'am. I've got everybody at your direction, but I have other 911 calls I have got to take that way.
More than 500 911 calls reveal an emergency response overwhelmed.
Okay, I'm going to have to disconnect. We have other 911 calls.
Don't, please, baby, please don't. Please, I'm begging you. Please have somebody to talk to me. I'm scared.
The Kerrville Police Department staffed just 2 911 operators the night of the floods, the police chief said. Between 4 and 5 a.m., perhaps the river's deadliest hour, the 2 operators fielded an average of more than 2 calls every minute.
My house is flooding. I can't go anywhere. My house is moving.
The calls were released after FOIA requests from media organizations, including NBC News. Here in the epicenter of the flood just outside of Kerrville, the scars of July 4th are still fresh. The calls that came from this area reveal that sense of shock, of desperation, some people making their last calls to first responders who could not get to them.
Hey, yes, the tree that I'm in is starting to lean and it's going to fall. Is there a helicopter close?
The last plea from Brad Perry, who was staying at this RV park.
I've probably got maybe 5 minutes left and I'm dead.
He was later found among the 119 people in Kerr County who did not survive the morning.
Ryan Chandler joins us tonight from the Texas Hill Country. Ryan, some people called multiple times trying to get help.
Tom, we listened to 4 separate calls from one man. In each instance, the dispatcher there directing him to first responders that had not yet arrived. So I asked the police department, what does normal staffing look like and why were only 2 people on duty on a night with severe weather in the forecast? We're still awaiting answers, Tom.
Ryan Chandler, as we see that makeshift memorial there with all those people that died behind him. Our other major headline tonight, the dangerous winter weather that is slamming the East Coast. Snow and icy conditions causing hundreds of crashes. Right now, more than 13 million Americans under winter weather alerts. Our Emily Aketa faces the freezing temps right here in New York City.
The icy winter blast, which already sparked collisions across New York, including this driver hitting a snowplow truck, wreaking havoc further south today. This 10-vehicle pileup involving a jackknife tractor trailer sending 4 people to the hospital in Virginia. The winter storm bringing the first snowfall of the season to the Washington, D.C. area and its iconic sites, and making a mess on the roads. Some parents upset that schools were still open.
Our bus was late. I saw 3 accidents driving my kid to school.
At airports, de-icing causing flight delays, like here at Richmond International.
They got us on here, smashed in here like sardines.
Bitter cold record lows reached in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Connecticut, and New York at both JFK and LaGuardia airports today. Parts of this famous fountain in Manhattan's Bryant Park frozen.
It's painfully cold. Like my skin is cracking.
Temps dropped more than 20 degrees in less than 24 hours in New York City, where bundled up tourists are now braving the cold in the holiday rush.
How are you staying warm?
I'm not. I'm still shivering.
I'm always thinking about what building I'm going to go in next to escape the cold.
You can see just how cold it is here at Winter Village at Bryant Park. Look how that ice has formed as 13 million Americans are facing winter weather alerts nationwide tonight. Tom?
All right, Emily Aketa for us. Emily, thank you. Now to the major change involving children and vaccines. A CDC panel voting to scrap a long-standing recommendation that all infants receive a hepatitis vaccine. NBC's Ann Thompson has more on the criticism coming in from the medical community.
No, I'm sorry.
The debate was impassioned.
We will see more children and adolescents and adults infected with hepatitis B.
And contentious.
We have still not had any information or science presented. This is unconscionable.
But Secretary Kennedy's hand-picked committee of vaccine advisors voted to end the recommendation that all infants get the hepatitis B vaccination at birth. Hepatitis B can lead to chronic liver disease, including liver failure and cancer. The vaccines all but eliminated the virus in children. One reason why the American Academy of Pediatrics blasts the change.
Children in America are less safe. They are vulnerable when we have a duty to most protect them.
Is there any evidence that the Hep B vaccine poses a danger to infants?
None whatsoever.
FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary says it's an issue of parental choice.
There is no scientific evidence that there's a benefit of doing it on the first day of life versus at age 10 or 12.
Except the percentage of those cases is dropped 99%. Isn't that scientific evidence that it works?
It would drop that much if we continue to immunize the subgroup where who benefits from it.
The committee still recommends infants born to moms who test positive for Hep B or whose status is unknown get the newborn dose.
All right, and with that, Ann Thompson joins us now in studio. And let's pick it up there. For the moms who test negative for Hep B, can their children still get, their newborns still get the shot?
They can. It will still be available to them, Tom. But the committee recommends that before they do that they talk to their health care providers so they can weigh the risks and benefits of vaccination. The other piece of information tonight is that the vaccines will still be paid for by both private and public insurers.
All right, important information there, and we thank you for that. The suspect in that D.C. pipe bombing investigation appearing in court for the first time today. Brian Cole Jr. was arrested just 24 hours ago. Now he's charged with leaving pipe bombs outside the RNC and the DNC offices in 2021, just hours before protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol. This is surveillance video of him doing it. Kelly O'Donnell has been following the case from Washington. Kelly, I know you have some new reporting, and we're also getting an understanding possibly of a motive here.
Well, he's been talking. Brian Cole Jr. of Virginia had spent more than 4 hours talking with investigators. And from that, we're learning some things that tell us about his thinking and how that might be applied to the way that prosecutors will look for motive. Motive isn't essential for pursuing this case, but it certainly helps to answer some questions. So in that time with investigators, here are some things that we've learned. According to sources familiar with the investigation, he confessed to being the one who placed those bombs outside the party headquarters in Washington, January 2021, the night before the January 6th Capitol riot. It's important to also note that timing because in his conversations, he told investigators that he believed the 2020 election had been stolen. Could that be a motive, or does it just simply inform us about his thought process? We also know that, according to officials, he said that he did possess the notable Nike shoes. They were Air Max Speed Turf shoes that were a part of the video that you saw and were during the years that we were looking for this suspect. They talked about those shoes being notable. He said he did own them and disposed of them. Prosecutors might look at that and say there's some consciousness of guilt there. Now, he now has a private lawyer, and his family was with him in court today, Tom, a sign of support as he goes through this process. But he has not yet entered a plea, and the Attorney General says it's possible there could be more charges as they continue to process evidence they gathered from his Virginia home.
I do want to bring in also, though, Lucas Shaw. He's the managing editor for media and entertainment at Bloomberg. He's done a lot of good reporting on this. Netflix, and he was the first to report the deal last night. Lucas, thanks for joining me. Congratulations on breaking that news. Assuming this deal goes through, how do you see this changing the landscape of Hollywood and of streaming? Where is it likely to be very tough to compete with Netflix now? And I mean, I keep going to the market cap right at the beginning of these negotiations that someone pointed out to me. Netflix had a market cap of, I think it's north of $400 billion. Paramount Skydance was north of $12 billion. They are such a Goliath now. Can anyone compete with them?
Yeah, I mean, it is obviously important to remember in the context of Paramount Skydance, they did have Larry Ellison, one of the richest men in the world, behind them. But look, Netflix is the biggest streaming service if you at least leave YouTube out of the equation, right? They're the biggest Hollywood streaming service by a lot. They're twice as big as all of the Disney stuff combined. This will make them even bigger. And that will be a big question when this gets reviewed by regulators, is how they define the market, right? Is it just the streaming? Is it all of television? Is it all entertainment? But you are combining the largest and most powerful streaming service with one of the oldest and most influential movie and television studios, as well as everything that HBO has to offer. They're going to be able to put together an offering for consumers that I think will be very hard to turn down and give them a lot of pricing power, as you asked Chloe earlier.
Let's stick with this sort of deal news, right? Because there's been talk, rumors, reports that Ellison's not going to go down without a fight, right? That there might be a hostile takeover. Yep. They may try something else. They've already appealed with their lawyers to the deal. Was this deal done sort of nefariously, if you will? What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, so the Ellisons sort of laid the groundwork for contesting the deal already. As you noted, they sent letters to Warner Brothers Discovery, to the board members, expressing concern that this had been an unfair deal process. They felt that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, was biased towards Netflix as a bidder, that they had amended his contract to make it so that he could get paid out just as much in the case of a Netflix deal. Many people see that as a prelude to them taking one of a few options. They could file a lawsuit and claim, make some claims about problems during the process. They could take this bid directly to shareholders and say, will you please, look at what we offered. It's actually better than Netflix, or even increase their offer to try to get them to go along. Or they can really push the Trump administration or some other regulatory body to review it and try to block it. It's hard to see the Ellisons going down without a fight, but after being very noisy the last few days, they've been a little bit quieter today.
I know it might be too early to ask you this. Does David Zaslav have a role now at Netflix? Will he have a role, or is this the end of an era?
Well, he does not yet have a guaranteed role. What everyone says is he is going to run Warner Brothers Discovery until they spin out the cable networks. He will then run Warner Brothers until they sell to Netflix, assuming that the deal happens. After that, we'll see. That's at a minimum, 2 years in the future, could be 3. I know that all of the bidders tried to promise David Zaslav some kind of role to get him on their side in the deal, but my understanding is there was nothing agreed to, there's nothing formally accepted, and David Zaslav, who will be in his mid to late 60s at that point, who has a lot of money, may decide that he wants to do something else.
You mentioned the spinoff here. What happens to CNN? They were part of the sort of bigger company that just split. So what happens now to Discovery and CNN and those cable properties?
So all of those cable networks, CNN, TBS, TNT, will get spun into a different entity, likely called Discovery Global or something of that nature, kind of an ode to the Discovery cable networks that were. And combined with what were the Time Warner cable networks. That will be an independent entity. It's supposed to be run by the current CFO of Warner Brothers Discovery. That's the plan, and that should happen, they said, I think, third quarter of next year, so sometime within the next calendar year. Then it's a little bit of an open question what they do with it, right? You've already had Comcast spin out some of its cable networks. There's a lot of cable networks out there trying to figure out what their home is because they're a declining business. And so their real only option is to consolidate because they're not valued a lot by shareholders at the moment.
Finally, look into your crystal ball. Is this good for Hollywood or is this bad for Hollywood?
Depends on if you're thinking about just the options that were in front of them right now, like the 3 buyers, or no deal. I think if you'd ask someone in Hollywood, could Warner Brothers stay independent or get sold, they'd rather it remain independent, right? You've seen a lot of guilds come out and say that. Of the 3 options in front of them, if they were going to sell it and it's Paramount, Comcast, or Netflix, I think Netflix is probably a slightly better option than Paramount, maybe also than Comcast, just because there will be fewer job losses. But most of the people I talk to are very worried right now.
All right, Lucas Shaw, you can read his byline in Bloomberg. We thank you for joining Top Story tonight. We're back in a moment with Michael Jordan taking the stand in his high-stakes legal battle against NASCAR. Why the basketball legend is accusing the racing body of running a monopoly. Plus the growing debate over going to college and whether a 4-year degree is actually worth it. A university president and young entrepreneur with a high school diploma go head-to-head. And the heart-pounding rescue caught on camera, a sergeant jumping into action to save an unconscious driver trapped inside of a burning car. Stay with us. Back now with Top Stories newsfeed, a federal judge in Florida ordering more Jeffrey Epstein files to be released. That includes material from grand jury investigations from 2005 and 2007. It's unclear exactly when they will be made public, but it comes after Congress passed a law last month requiring the Justice Department to release all of its records related to Epstein. And dramatic body cam video showing a rescue in Washington state as a driver got trapped inside of a burning truck. You can see a sergeant jumping into action after a pickup truck collided with a tree and burst into flames. The driver left unconscious. Deputies eventually were able to break the window and pull them to safety. Officials say the driver taken to a hospital with serious injuries. LeBron James' historic scoring streak came to an end last night. Get this. He put up at least 10 points in just under 1,300 consecutive regular season games. The streak goes back to 2007. LeBron says he had no regrets since he picked up the game-winning assist, helping the Lakers beat the Raptors. And a close call in Canada for an officer guiding traffic during a snowstorm. Look at this. You can see him standing in the road as a car appears to lose control, swerving straight towards him. He quickly jumps into a ditch, narrowly avoiding getting hit. Police in Ontario sharing this video as a warning to drivers to slow down during those dangerous conditions. And we're remembering one of the most innovative and renowned architects in the world. Frank Gehry was best known for designing unique buildings like the Guggenheim Museum in Spain and the Walt Disney Concert Hall in L.A. His chief of staff says he died today at his home in Santa Monica from a respiratory illness. Gehry was 96 years old. Next tonight, the great higher education debate. Is a college degree still worth the cost? A new poll from NBC News showing almost 2/3 of registered voters, 63%, say a 4-year college degree is no longer worth it because people often graduate without specific job skills and with a large amount of debt. Compare that to results from 2013 when just 40% said a degree wasn't worth it. That number trending in the wrong directions for universities. To get a better sense of both sides of this debate, I'm joined tonight by Tanya Tetlow, president of Fordham University, and Zach Osborne. He's a young entrepreneur who started his own landscaping business right out of high school, which he says he's grown into a $600,000 operation. President Tetlow, I'm going to start with you. This is a conversation you and I have had before. We know each other. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think when you see a stat like that? It's got to bug you a little bit.
It does, because when you look at the economic data, actually, it's still true that a college degree doubles your earnings over the course of a lifetime. And so we really want people to make their choices having the real information about what that investment can do for you.
What do you think's happened here? Why do you think a majority of Americans don't think it's worth it anymore? Where have colleges gone wrong? Do you think it was that college is getting too expensive? Do you think it's the university protest that happened over last summer? I mean, or is it a lot of things?
Well, the American people have lost trust in almost every kind of institution. And in a time of growing economic pressure and rising prices, that anxiety is real. We also have a model of pricing where the posted tuition is a lot higher than what people actually pay, that we flood financial aid on families to make sure that we can do as much as possible to be affordable. But that tuition is daunting, and we know that.
Zach, how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
You're 20 years old, so you're right at that cusp, right? You had the chance to go to college. You decided not to. Are you happy with your decision,
yes,
and what drove that?
Yeah, I've been very happy with my decision. I've kind of always been a bit of an entrepreneur ever since I was younger. Now, during high school, I did want to go to college. Once I was getting to that point where I was filling out my common application, I realized it was just not fiscally realistic for me and my family. And honestly, I just didn't know what I wanted to do at all.
Do you regret it at all not going to college, or do you think you're going to be okay?
Yeah, no, I would say I do not regret it whatsoever. It was definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made. It opened a lot of doors for me. I've made a lot of lifelong relationships through running this business. I've got to do a lot of cool stuff. Overall, I would say it's a very good decision for me.
Yeah, not everyone has to go to college, right?
Absolutely.
And college is not for everyone, and maybe it's not for Zach, but There is a lot to college, and there are life experiences, there is education, there are people that you probably would not come across if you stayed living in your hometown. What are some of the other pitches you give to students and to families out there who might be at a crossroads like Zach?
Well, there's so many critical jobs that don't require college and so many that do. And when people are thinking about their ambitions and their hopes and dreams, to prepare them from every imaginable profession, which includes, as I talk to employers, those kinds of soft skills that are hard to teach on the job, right? Critical thinking, curiosity, openness, the emotional intelligence to navigate teamwork. You can learn that in a lot of ways, as Zach is, but one of the best ways to do it is on a college campus.
I want to put up a stat here we have for our viewers here, because there's a growing gender gap too, right? Mm-hmm. And something that you're seeing at Fordham, from what I understand, is your 2029 class, right? In your 2029, I guess, graduating class, 60% of the students are going to be women. How do you reach those young men that have been opting out of a four-year degree? Yeah, that's a gap that's been growing, and we see across higher education in this country. We're not really sure why it's happening, but one of the theories is that more young men are determined to start earning right out of high school. So part of it is just to play the long game, to think about what you want to do with your life, but also to think about the investment of not just tuition, but also time out of the workplace, but what that can do in terms of paying off. Yeah. Zach, did technology and sort of where we are with the internet, AI, play a role at all in your decision?
Yeah, I would say it definitely did. When I first really got into it, I was actually motivated off of a TikTok video I saw of a guy similar my age explaining he bought a power washer and how he was making a bunch of money off of it. So I saw that. I was a junior in high school, and I was like, shoot, let me try this. And by me trying that, because I saw it online, it then led to where I am today.
Tanya, is it hard to sort of keep up with that and compete with that? People may say, you know, there's that generation that you can Google anything, you can learn everything on YouTube, you have AI now that can do the jobs of several people at once. How do you sort of combat that thinking? Well, AI is going to replace a lot of the most sort of technical, practical jobs. What you're going to need to learn to survive in this new economy are those deeply human skills of wisdom and the more complicated, higher order things that aren't always going to be easy to learn on your own. And not every young person has the kind of determination and entrepreneurial spirit of a Zach. Yeah, no, Zach, that is true. I mean, Zach, is there a part of you that sort of feels like you're going to miss out on that college experience of sort of meeting people you would have never sort of come across maybe in your day-to-day life or in your city, people from different countries, different cities, college football, so kind of those kind of social aspects too?
I would say I definitely interact with less people than my average peer who goes to college, but I have a bunch of friends who are in college. Very often I go down to JMU or I go down to schools in D.C., Maryland. So I've still met a lot of people through my friends' college experience. I'm kind of living alongside them. But also with running my business, I've met a lot of people as well. Maybe not all my peers, but I do have a lot of relationships who are around my age. So I would say I didn't really miss out on building friendships or relationships or anything like that. And I don't think I really missed out on the college life because I can always just drive right there and I'm there.
I give you a lot of credit for having the guts to sort of start your business on your own right out of high school. That takes a lot, right? And I know it's a lot of hard work to run a business. It is not easy, especially if you have other employees. So I'm sure you're getting a lot of life lessons that you probably wouldn't get in college. Do you think there's a side of you that will ever want to maybe pursue a higher education or go to college? Or do you think that part of your life is done?
Yeah, so I actually tried doing a few classes, community college. I was doing it online, and I was doing it for a good while. I was keeping up with my classes, and it just got to the point where I got too busy with the business to where it did not make sense for me to be spending the time I was. And the business was also doing so well. All that time I was spending on those classes, I just kind of felt it was a waste of time. Now, down the line, I may change my mind and want to, you know, pursue something, but I highly doubt it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Tanya, we both know the importance of a Jesuit education, right? And for the Jesuits, if you go back to sort of their philosophy of teaching, it goes back to what I think is called the Parisian method. And essentially the goal was to get well-rounded citizens. It's to educate them in philosophy, in religion, in history, in mathematics, science, so then you build up better citizens who are well-informed. You have better cities, better states, better countries, and so on, a better world. What is your pitch, though, to someone who's young now, who says, listen, I can get all that on the internet, or that's not for me, it's all about me, and I'm going to save all this money by going into the workforce? What is the pitch to those people and to those parents maybe who are debating, should we take out this loan to send our child to college?
There's so much richness in teaching the kind of critical thinking skills that help you navigate the easy answer the internet spits out at you, and particularly in this fog of information, of this chaotic world we live in, of learning those skills of deep thinking, of putting yourself in the shoes of others through literature, of the critical thinking skills of philosophy matter more than ever. And particularly in a moment when AI is going to take over a lot of the technical sort of scut work of life, those deeper, richer skills are what will remain. And the research shows that education correlates to your willingness to vote, to be a good citizen, to really engage with the world. And you can get that from other ways, but it's so much harder to do it on your own.
Did schools, in your opinion, and will there be a reckoning, did schools get too expensive? And did the philosophy of sort of you need to get a college degree, you need to get a graduate degree, you need to be almost overeducated, if you can agree that is something that someone can be overly educated. I just wonder if some people, and many Americans, got into student loan debt. They got buried in that debt, weren't able to get out. They got great degrees, but they weren't able to get the jobs to sort of back up the debt they got into. Did colleges lose their way a little bit, or do you think that was just incumbent on people?
Well, something that will surprise most people is that the average cost of college, of what we actually charge after financial aid, has been flat and even declining for the last decade. And it's hard to see because tuition is very different from financial aid. But what we know at a school like Fordham is 6 months after graduation, our graduating class, at 94% of them had a job or were going on to graduate school.
That's incredible.
Getting to fulfill their dreams of everything that they can imagine. And at our best, we do that really well. And it is expensive to provide that quality of education. And one thing I hope we can all agree on is it should be more affordable, because the community would see it as a public good, that we'd make investments in financial aid that have always been the subject of total bipartisan agreement. That investing in the hopes and dreams of young people is good for America, and it's good for the American dream.
In the current job market, even with AI and everything we're seeing now, with affordability and jobs being more and more scarce in some sectors, kids are still getting hired out of college. You're still seeing good trends with your graduates?
Absolutely. Everywhere from corporate America to being middle school teachers to going on to medical school, they're doing brilliantly.
Tanya Tetlow, president of Fordham, so great to have you here. Zach, it has been a pleasure talking to you again. Congratulations on all your success. It takes a lot of guts to do what you're doing, and I hope we can continue this conversation as well in the future. Coming up on Top Story tonight, a big update on that story we brought you last night about an 88-year-old veteran still working hard to make ends meet. His reaction after receiving a life-changing surprise. That's next. Now to a big update on a story we told you about last night. An Army veteran who gave his family and his country his all, but still didn't have enough to retire. So the internet stepped in to help him, and tonight he's just learned what thousands of kind strangers have done for him.
I'd like to share your story and try and, get people to help you retire.
Oh, thank you.
This is the moment that resonated with millions of people. Army veteran Ed Bambus, still working full-time in a grocery store at 88, trying to make ends meet after he says his General Motors buyout dried up.
I sold a house and we made it through. My wife died 7 years ago. Since then, I've been trying to reestablish myself.
His story inspiring Australian influencer Sam Wiedenhofer to take action.
Oh, thank you.
And an outpouring of donations followed. More than $1.7 million raised to help Ed retire. And today, our cameras were there in Michigan when Sam surprised him with the life-changing check.
You will be able to retire because we've raised you $1.77 million.
Ed, overcome with emotion, and moved to tears.
Oh my God. It feels fake, I know, but it's completely real.
Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I don't know how I can thank a tenth of these people. Thank you.
From the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
The generosity of strangers, changing one man's life forever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.